So it was a couple of weeks ago that the Quebec government announced, they made it official, that the Olympic Stadium is going to be closed for 4 years so that they can install a brand spanking new roof. $870 million for that new roof. And at the end of the day, at the end of spending that money, well, the interior of the stadium hasn't changed the fact that nobody really wants to play any type of sport in that stadium. The tourism minister says that it'll bring Taylor Swift, though, to the city. Let's talk a little bit more about this. William Jegher joins us on the line. He's a partner at EY, and William was one of the people heavily involved in previous attempts to bring back Major League Baseball to this city. William, it's great to talk to you again. Thanks for coming on.
You too. Thanks, Elias. Thanks for having me.
And I know, thanks to social media, you have an opinion on this one. Well, first things first, let's talk about the decision that was made, that apparently that I'm still trying to stop, but they're making it here. On the almost $1 billion for the roof, why do you believe that is the wrong decision?
Where to begin? As you referenced, you said that the tourism minister thinks that Taylor Swift will play in Montreal if we have a new roof. I would surmise that there's no way. I think basically what we're doing here is we're outfitting a 1975 Datsun by putting a new roof on it. But the problem is the inside is still a 1975 Datsun, even if it has a 2024 roof on it. And so therefore, what comes with that is the fact that the stadium is just not up to par. It's not up to par to host world-class events like Taylor Swift. The acoustics are terrible. The seating bowl is a disaster. Basically, everything needs to be overhauled. And so what you see happening in other cities is nobody really keeps their old Olympic infrastructure. It gets repurposed, it gets redeveloped, and that is okay. And I think that some people have a hard time wrapping their head around the fact that you can still honor the legacy that was the Olympic Games to Montreal by doing adaptive reuse, a repurposing of the asset. And that's what I would like to see happen. Basically to do something that would act as an economic engine to the east end of Montreal. But I can tell you, putting a new roof on the Big O is not going to be that economic engine.
Why this subject is so frustrating for me is it feels like I've got all the arguments to back up my point, right? And I hear from people who are in complete agreement, yet the powers that be. And by the way, we could talk about the CAC government who's making this decision, but then all of the opposition parties are in agreement. You never see that, a full agreement on anything, right? But the Liberals, the Quebec Solidaire, PQ, in agreement that this is the best choice for this scenario. Why is that? Why, despite the evidence and the arguments, it doesn't seem good arguments don't seem to work in this case on the subject of the Big O. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, look, I think inertia is what you're seeing. I think that the shelf life of the average politician is about 4 years, and this is probably a 15 to 20 year project if you really want to redevelop and reuse, the site of the Olympic Park and demolish the bowl and do something interesting. And so, it's not a critique to any one politician, but really it is difficult, I think, for some politicians to wrap their minds around the fact that, okay, I'm probably only here for 4 years, maybe 8 if I'm lucky. Is this really sort of the heavy lift that I want to undertake at this moment? And I would agree with you too. Everyone that I'm talking to thinks that this is just absolutely bonkers. And I do as well. What can I tell you? I just hope that people continue to speak up. I hope that people continue to, make light of the fact that this should not be happening.
Now, one of the things that we hear from the government is that, demolition would be so expensive that it is the only option is to give a roof because demolition would cost $2 billion. I've taken a look at that, but you as well have looked at this. That $2 billion number, how true is that number? I guess that's the best way I can ask that question.
So, look, you put out a couple tweets yourself about this. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I have never heard of the demolition of a stadium costing within 100x magnitude of that number. I think if I'm to understand correctly, and in fact, we don't know because none of the reports are actually released publicly, I believe the $2 billion figure was referenced to demolish the entirety of the Olympic Park site, which would include the bowl, the tower, the biodome, the insectarium, what have you. And I don't think anyone is actually suggesting that. I don't think anyone is actually suggesting that we go off and level all those assets. I actually am also one that believes that, the tower next to the bowl is somewhat of an icon, and I think that there is a way to structurally reinforce that tower and keep it. I just figure that, I just can't wrap my head around it, man. It's honestly. So no, to answer your question, I have never seen anything close to that. I think Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium, which ran next to subway lines, and I've heard this, argument about the Metro line running underneath. I think the old Yankee Stadium cost $25 million to demolish. I can only assume that the powers that be have a study that shows how much this costs and have done the appropriate due diligence.
I'm going to ask you this to wrap up here, and it has to do with thinking big. Last week, Chicago, Kansas City, both of those cities announced massive redevelopment projects or proposals to reimagine portions of their downtown, Chicago along the Chicago River, downtown core in Kansas City. This week, Salt Lake City does not have a baseball team but wants one, and unveiled their proposal to redevelop the downtown, green space, hotels, housing, and a baseball stadium. Why? What's lacking in this city for thinking big like that?
It's a great question. I mean, look, in the case of some of the cities you referenced, obviously a lot of them already have clubs, notwithstanding that Salt Lake City is seeking an expansion MLB team, or potentially for the A's to relocate there if their plans in Vegas don't pan out. I'm not sure what stops us from thinking bigger. I do think that there is, the notion of trying to avoid the media exposure and sort of what big ideas bring. Big ideas bring a lot of attention. And so I think it is a lot easier to sometimes kick the can down the road. Again, in defense of I'll say the other side of the coin here is, even if a project is announced, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually going to see the light of day. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that anyone would venture and build a baseball stadium without actually getting a guarantee that you're actually getting a club. So in the case of Salt Lake City, I think it's great to put out renderings and pictures and plans, and that's all wonderful. But I actually think that a lot has to happen for projects like that to move forward. We always said, just to close on this, we always said when we were trying to bring baseball back here that we would never build a stadium without a guarantee of a team. And, that would continue to be the case. I mean, nobody would suggest that we should go off and spend $1 billion on a new ballpark. I think we already are seeing how that worked out in Quebec City. And I don't think anybody wants to see that for Montreal.
Is that dream dead, by the way? I know Major League Baseball is considering reopening expansion sooner than later. Is the dream dead? I know you tried. Could that dream come back?
I mean, I'd say that there's a lot of people in the city that are very passionate about bringing baseball back to Montreal. And I think as long as some of us continue to walk this earth, I think we'll always hold out a little bit of hope. My personal take on it is that expansion is a long way off still. Mm-hmm. I think baseball is dealing with some other issues right now. And the commissioner announced yesterday that, he would be retiring in 2029. And he was hoping to maybe perhaps start a process to begin expansion by the time he leaves in 2029. And so, new teams wouldn't be playing in baseball until well into the 2030s at this point. So it's difficult to really coalesce and get a group excited about something if, you're looking that far out into the future. But, hey, as they say, it ain't over till it's over, right?
William, they do say that indeed. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
William Jegher is a partner at EY.